What's up, y'all? Today I'll be predicting the chances that every NBA team makes a trade by the NBA deadline. And the deadline is now 4 days away. And as of Sunday morning, February 1st, we've only had 3 trades, with 2 of them coming in the last day or so. And so, starting with the Dallas Mavericks are interesting. And as a Mavs fan, I don't want to see a lot of these guys go. But there's Najee Marshall, who's a hot name on the market. Klay Thompson was in rumors earlier. PJ Washington is a guy who I said I wouldn't be so mad if he left because I want him in a winning situation. He is a winning player. The same with Najee Marshall. Daniel Gafford is one of the hottest center names on the market right now. And then obviously Anthony Davis has been in rumors throughout this whole season. So I think the Mavericks have to be in 100%. If it's not Anthony Davis, I think it's Najee Marshall. If it's not Najee Marshall, I think it's Daniel Gafford. I think the Mavericks will just have to make a move because we have value on this roster. We're just not a good team. Next is the Atlanta Hawks. They have also been in a lot of trade rumors this season, with already trading away Trae Young. They traded away Vit Krejci this morning. But I think the one name on their roster that they do still plan to move is Zachary Richardson. He was linked to Anthony Davis. He's now linked to a possible Giannis Antetokounmpo. So I'm not sure. I think they go in 75%. I think they've already made the moves that they really plan to make, and I don't know if Zachary Richardson is a NBA trade deadline thing or a offseason thing. Next is the Miami Heat. They have been linked to a lot of players this season, with Ja Morant possibly earlier in the season, which that sort of got shut down with Ja Morant saying he wanted to stay in Memphis. Giannis Antetokounmpo is obviously a name that all 29 teams are going for, but the Heat look like they are a top destination. They have Andrew Wiggins, who could possibly be going back to Golden State. They have Kel'el Ware, who is a good backup center, who is still young, still in year one, so you see what he can turn into. But I think overall the Heat have a 50% chance to make a trade this season if it's around Andrew Wiggins. If it's around Kel'el Ware. Next is the Brooklyn Nets. They still have Michael Porter Jr. on this roster, who is someone that I've wanted to be moved to a real contending team. I think he would look great with the Pistons, maybe even an OKC Thunder, and you saw what he can do on contending teams with the 2023 Nuggets. But they also have Nick Claxton, who is a hot name on the center market. Day'Ron Sharpe is looked at as a good backup center. But overall, I think the Nets, if they don't trade Michael Porter Jr., is probably around 25%. But having Michael Porter Jr. on this roster, I think it bumps them up to around 50%. The next team is the Boston Celtics. They have had a great season this year, being third in the Eastern Conference, 30-18. But they do have moves to make. Anthony Simons is still on this roster, who was sort of a throw-in to the Jrue Holiday trade. He makes $27 million a year, almost $28 million a year, and you would have to pay him next season or he leaves in free agency. But he has been great this season for them. They still need center play. They have Nemez Keita, who has been good this season. They have Luka Garza, who's been a solid backup. Amari Williams has even got some play for them. But I think they will be active on that center market. And if you throw in that Jason Tatum has rumored to not want to come back this season, I think they wait to get that center or to improve the roster in the offseason. But if he's rumored to even think about coming back, I think they do make that by the deadline. But overall, I put the Celtics at probably 25%, and that's just banking on them getting a center or them wanting to move Anthony Simons while his value is high so they don't have to pay him. The next team is the Minnesota Timberwolves. The Minnesota Timberwolves are interesting because they will have stretches where they lose 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 in a row, and then right now they're on a 4-game win streak. But overall, I think if they want to reach that Western Conference Finals tier that they've been at for the last 2 years, they will have to get point guard play. Right now on this roster, Rob Dillingham just is not who you wanted him to be. Mike Conley's getting older. Bones Hyland has given them solid backup minutes, but he's just not going to be their point guard for the future. So I think they do have to hit the point guard market. And Naz Reid would be their most valuable asset in a trade, which I think Timberwolves fans don't want to see Naz Reid leave. But overall, I think that is who you would have to give up if you want to get that point guard and want to be in contention. Dante DiVincenzo could also be a name that could be leaving, even though he's been really good this season for them. But I think overall, they will have to be in probably 75% if they want to reach the heights that they plan to reach this season. The next team is the Los Angeles Clippers. If this video was made a couple months ago, I would tell them to sell the whole team, get rid of James Harden, get rid of Kawhi Leonard, and just start rebuilding because they started that horrible. But now they are the 10 seed out west, being 22-25. And if it wasn't for that horrible start, they would be a top 6 seed in the West. But I think if the Clippers do eventually make a move, it would be selling off high on Zubac. And then there was a report that a team like Boston offered a first round pick in a swap and they declined it. So I'm not sure how high you're selling on Zubac. He's had a pretty down year this season, but last season he looked a lot better. So I don't know if you would want 2, 3 first round picks for Zubac, and if teams are giving that up. And as good as they are, I think they are still candidates to sell. Their offseason didn't go as planned. Bradley Beal is out for the season. Chris Paul ended up getting sent home. So I think the Clippers are about at 25%, and that's if they get the right package for a Visa Zubac. The next team is the Washington Wizards. I think they have made the move they would have made, which would be getting off of CJ McCollum's expiring deal, moving Corey Kispert, who was a hot name on the shooter market. And I mean, this team just isn't good. They're 12-35, 15th in the East. Right now, they have the third best odds to land a Darren Peterson, AJ DeBonza, Cameron Boozer, and just looking at the roster, they don't have many movable pieces. Their team is very young, and I mean, Bub Carrington has high upside. Trey Johnson looks good. Will Riley has looked good in his spurts. Alex Sarr is looking like a star just in year 2. Keyshawn George has looked great in year 2. They have Bilal Coulibaly. They added Trey Young earlier, so I think they stay put. I don't think they make any more moves coming up to the deadline. The next team is the Phoenix Suns, and they have looked a lot better based on preseason expectations that a lot of people put on them, me included. They are 7th in the West right now, being 30-19. They are 6th in defensive rating, 9th in net rating, and this has been from guys like Dillon Brooks, who they got in that Kevin Durant trade. Jalen Green has looked good in his games played. He's just has been out for so long. Devin Booker is still looking like an all-star this season. So I think they do stay put. I don't know many moves that they should make to really improve this roster. I think they just ride this out with Jordan Ott being a first-year head coach. I don't think they have championship aspirations this season, but I think they do stay put and let this roster really develop, and they will look scary in a few years' time. Next is the San Antonio Spurs, and their roster is just so good that I don't know if you want to make a move. They're 32-16, third in the Western Conference. Right now they have Keldon Johnson, who is a Sixth Man of the Year. Harrison Barnes has looked great for them. De'Aaron Fox, obviously. Stephon Castle, obviously. Dylan Harper, obviously. Just a three-headed trio for the guard room. Luke Cornett has looked good as a backup center whenever Victor Wembanyama does miss time or whenever he's sitting on the bench coming off of a minutes restriction. Carter Bryant still has not gotten the right burn that you wanted to get, but when you're on this competitive of a team and you're a rookie, that just makes sense. Devin Vassell has been out, but he has looked great in his games played. Jeremy Sohan doesn't hit the rotation, but overall this roster, I just don't know if there's much improving to do to it. So I think the Spurs might be at 0%. The next team is the Orlando Magic, and they have just looked a lot worse than people expected. I think I put them at the 4 seed to start the season. Right now they sit at 7, being 25-22. They added in Desmond Bane, who has looked like he's gotten worse this season, which is still not bad. He's still a 19 point per game scorer, but his shooting splits have been down. And that's what you really needed for Orlando, to have a great shooter, to add more spacing. Anthony Black is having a breakout season. He has looked great this year. And I think they do have to juggle Franz Wagner or Paolo Banchero. This has been the conversation over the last few years, and they keep on trying to improve the roster to make it work between both of them. But I don't think that's a trade deadline thing. I think that's a offseason thing. There's possibility that it might even go till next offseason. Jalen Suggs has not looked amazing this season. And overall, I think if they are going to make a move this season, is going to be Jamal Mosley being fired. But there still is a chance that they do try to make a move to keep Paolo and Franz on this roster and try to build around them just one last time. So I will put them at 25%. The next team is the Indiana Pacers, and they have just really looked horrible this season. Coming off of the finals, they are 13-36, 14th in the Eastern Conference. Right now, they have the 4th best odds at a DeBonza, Peterson, Boozer, Caleb Wilson. But I think they do make a move this season. They have Tyrese Halliburton coming back next year, so it's not like it's all doom and gloom for them. They will be good again next year with a top pick coming in the door. But they also do not have a good center room. Jay Huff has looked great in his games played, but overall, I think they do want to make a move to get a center this season. So I will put them at 50%, because there is a chance that they do wait until the offseason, really assess around Tyrese Halliburton, since there's no urgency to make a move right now at the trade deadline. Next is the Cleveland Cavaliers, and I've said so many times that this Cavs team is one of the weirdest teams in the NBA. It's so hard to predict what they will look like and what they will do. They put together a string of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 wins and then lose to Phoenix. They lost to OKC, but every single time they lose, it's like the world is falling for them. It's like they need to trade Darius Garland. They need to trade Jared Allen, maybe even Evan Mobley. But then whenever they start winning, it looks a lot better. And a lot of that is credit to Donovan Mitchell. He has had an amazing season this year. He deserves to be an All-Star, All-NBA nod. And Evan Mobley has not looked great this season. He's not taking the offensive jump that you wanted from him. Still averaging 18, 8.5, and 4. And Darius Garland has looked good in his games played, but just him being in and out of the lineup has really hurt them. They still have Lonzo Ball, who has not looked good this season. He has looked a lot worse than people expected. But I don't know if they make a trade. They have right now they sit at the fifth seed, which is a lot better than what they were before. They were in the play-in range just a few weeks ago. So I think they do still have a chance to possibly make the finals, possibly make a run in the Eastern Conference at least. So I will put them at 75% if they do want to really make a run and really go out for it. Next team is the Oklahoma City Thunder. They have looked great this season. They are 38-11, but after a 24-1 start, it looked like they were undefeatable. It looked like no one could beat this OKC team. But recently, you have started to see a few hits in their armor, if you will, getting losses to the Memphis Grizzlies, to the San Antonio Spurs, to the Charlotte Hornets by 30. So you do start to see that this team is not unbeatable. There is ways that they could be beat, and it's been their offense. They still are the number one ranked defense in the league by a few points, but they are the fourth ranked offense, which is still contender level status. They have the best net rating, and this team isn't a bad team by any means. They are the best team in the NBA. But when you are being nitpicky, they do need shooting. AJ Mitchell has looked like a good second creator for them through the first 25 or so games whenever J-Dub was out. Chet Holmgren has looked good. Cason Wallace has looked good. But all of these guys are still streaky shooters. They have Isaiah Joe, who is the only real shooter on this roster, right now averaging 39%. But there's guys like Lou Dort, who averages 35%. Cason Wallace averages 35.6%. Where is Alex Caruso? Alex Caruso is at 30%. So there's just a lot of streaky shooters. And whenever you have Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, who the whole offense will run through him, right now being a 32 point per game scorer, shooting 55.6, 39%, 89%. So a great year for Shai. But their whole offense is just Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. So you need a second creator or just a shooter if they want to go get a Michael Porter Jr. Dennis Schroeder is already gone, but I think they do make a move for that second guy. But also, we had this conversation last year, and they didn't do anything and ended up winning a championship. And right now, they still are my championship favorites. So I don't know if they will go make a move, but I think they should, and I think it's about 50-50 for me. The next team is the New York Knicks, and I think they will make a trade this season. With having championship aspirations, a 12th ranked defense just is not going to get you there. You still have a 3rd ranked offense, and you're still a good team. They are second in the Eastern Conference. I think they're close to being tied with the Celtics, but they still are second, and they had a big slump after the NBA Cup championship, but they have since started to put together 5 wins now, and they have looked a lot better. But they still have Karl-Anthony Towns, who I think has to be moved by the deadline. If you do want to be a contender, you really need a defensive level center. Gershon Yabusele has not looked great this season. If you can sell him off and get some value back, it would be good for the Knicks. Mitchell Robinson has looked great. I wouldn't say great, but he has looked a lot better, and he's still a service level backup center, sometimes starting with Cat and just being a real defensive monster. He's close to leading the league, and here he is leading the league in offensive rebounds this year, and that just helps their 3rd ranked offense. But I think they will have to make a trade. If it's Mikal Bridges going out, OG Anunoby, I don't know if they will, because they are in the Giannis sweepstakes this year, and they wouldn't be able to sell off at the deadline and still have enough for Giannis. But I think ultimately they should 100%. If I'm doing predictions, I'll do 75%, but I think they should 100% make a trade this season if they want to be contenders and raise that Larry O'Brien trophy this year. The next team is the Golden State Warriors, and I'm not sure with Mike Dunleavy what he's doing in that front office if he wants to make a trade this season. But I think even if it's not one of the big names like a Jimmy Butler, Draymond Green, I think you have to get away from Jonathan Kuminga by the trade deadline. You have Steph Curry still playing at an all NBA level, averaging 27%, shooting 47, 39, 93. So he's still looking great at 37 years old. So you have to really start to buy into this and realize that Steph Curry, it could lead you to a possible, I wouldn't say championship. I wouldn't put them in contender level, but they are in that top tier in the Western Conference with just Steph Curry. And now you add a great team around him. I don't know if it's going to be a Giannis Antetokounmpo or a Anthony Davis, but you still need pieces around Steph Curry. But ultimately, Mike Dunleavy Jr. has really not liked trading away future assets to build around Steph Curry. So I think they 100% make a trade. I think if it's not a piece around Steph Curry, if it's not a Jimmy Butler or Draymond Green leaving, they will move on from Jonathan Kuminga by the deadline. The next team is the Sacramento Kings. They ended up just making a trade, getting off of Keon Ellis, who was a pretty hot name on the market, who just wasn't playing in Sacramento. But he has looked like a real defensive monster, not being one of the top tier guys, but still just talking about guys who really compete on the defensive side of the ball. Keon Ellis was one of them, and he didn't have high value on the market, but people wanted him out of Sacramento. This team is really just not good. They are 12 and 38, 15th in the Western Conference. They have the worst record in the NBA, going for that number one overall pick. And so I want Russell Westbrook out of this team. That he is still playing at, I wouldn't say all-star, I wouldn't say anything close to that, but he is still contributing to this team. And so you add in a guy who is a 15 point per game scorer to a real contender level team. You saw him do it with the Nuggets last year. So I want him off this roster. I don't know if they will do that, so I will put them at 50% because other than Russell Westbrook, I don't know what moves you can make unless it's a Sabonis deal, which could look nice. Sabonis has come back from injury and started to look better, and there's a lot of teams who really want to center this season, so I think I will put them to 100%. If it's not Russell Westbrook, it will be Sabonis. The next team is the Chicago Bulls, and I think they plan to make a trade. I don't think it's the way that Bulls fans want. I think they are trying to compete this season, so they're not going to sell off on Vucevic's expiring deal. They're not going to sell off on Kevin Huerter's expiring deal. They're not going to sell high on Ayo Dosunmu, who has looked great this season, being a 15 point per game scorer, primarily coming off the bench this season. So he would be a real contributor to a top level team. And he's a guy I want to see moved. But ultimately, with Josh Giddey still playing great, Kobe White and Josh Giddey both being out of the lineups here and there, I think they will make a trade just to buy, which is interesting because right now they are the ninth seed in the Eastern Conference, still being in the play-in. But I think ultimately they will make a trade if it's going to be buy, or possibly they do sell. And they did make a move getting in Dario Saric earlier this morning and 2 second-round picks. So they did make a trade, but it's not the type of trade that we expect from them. I think they will move a player by the trade deadline. The next team is the Los Angeles Lakers, and I have talked a lot about how this team is not a Luka Doncic team, and that's why they've been struggling. Right now, they're 29 and 18, 6th in the Western Conference. They have a 25th defensive rating, but still a 6th offensive rating. And they looked good to start the season. Whenever Luka Doncic was out, LeBron James was out, they had Austin Reeves, who was playing amazing. Eventually, he went out, and he's likely to return, I think, in the next few days. But he has looked good, really good for them this season, playing at an all-star level. They have Luka Doncic still being an MVP candidate. LeBron James has started to look a lot better in the last few weeks compared to whenever he first came back from his injury. Gabe Vincent still isn't doing anything on this roster. Marcus Smart has looked good as an offseason signing for them. DeAndre Ayton has had games where he'll go 20 for 20 and then 2 for 16 from the field. So he's pretty on and off. Jackson Hayes has looked good playing next to Luka Doncic, which you expect whenever you have that great of a big setter in Luka Doncic. Jake LaRavia has been okay. So I think they do make a move. I don't know if they make a move this deadline to build around Luka Doncic. I think they might wait until LeBron James is eventually not on this roster, and that's when they really start to get pieces around Luka Doncic, because right now LeBron James makes about $54 million. So it's hard to build a Luka Doncic team whenever LeBron James is still on your roster. So ultimately, I think it's 50-50 because they are in a lot of sweepstakes. They're the Lakers, so they're looking at Giannis Antetokounmpo. They're looking at all these big names. So there's a chance that they will make a move, but ultimately I put them probably around 25%. The next team is the Philadelphia 76ers, and they have looked a lot better this season, coming off of, I think, 13th in the Eastern Conference last year. Now they're 6th, 27 and 21. Tyrese Maxey has looked like a star. I'm one of the biggest Tyrese Maxey fans you'll ever see, so I'm happy that he's now a 29 point per game scorer, shooting 39% from three, 42% from the field. He has had a few down games in the last few, but overall, he has looked great this season, being an all-star starter, making his first All-NBA team this year, I assume. VJ Edgecombe has looked great as a rookie. Quentin Grimes has still worked with this three-guard trio. I think ultimately Jared McCain would be the odd man out. So if you wanted to make a trade to improve this roster, you would try to sell off on Jared McCain, who is still young and still has a lot of potential. So I'm sure teams will be interested. You still need a better center room. Joel Embiid has looked great. He has looked a lot better in the last few games. But ultimately, you need a backup center. That's not Andre Drummond. That's not Adem Bona, even though both of them have been playing really well. And Paul George unfortunately, just got suspended for 25 games. So I don't know if that makes you want to go make a move at the deadline to try to make that final playoff push to go into the playoffs, or you just stay put. Ultimately, I don't know what the 76ers can do. They are in a lot of close games this season. All these small little marks are decided by 3 points, decided by 2 points, decided by 1 point. So there's just a lot of around the margins things that you would have to do to this team. They're not a team that's looked at to make a big move this season. And ultimately, I think if it's not a Jared McCain trade or something to do with Paul George, I haven't heard any reports since the suspension just came out. I'm sure it's nothing, but ultimately I'll put them at 25% just in case they want to entertain Jared McCain offers. The next team is the Denver Nuggets, and they have looked great this season. Right now, they're second in the Western Conference, 33 and 16. They have the first offensive rating. Jokic has come back from his injury and being off for the last 4 weeks or so. He has looked better, and this team as a whole has looked great. Where is he? Peyton Watson has looked amazing whenever Jokic went out. Tim Hardaway Jr. has stepped up. Bruce Brown stepped up. Jamal Murray has been their constant, and he has looked great this season, being an all-star, I'm assuming. Jalen Pickett has had a few games. Zeke Naji has looked good. Jonas Valanciunas has looked good, even though he's missed a couple games. But I think most of their work they did in the offseason, and I think they had one of the best off seasons in the NBA. Bringing in Tim Hardaway Jr., Bruce Brown, Jonas Valanciunas, and Cam Johnson. Ultimately, like I said, they are 24th in defensive rating, so there is a chance they do make good defensive pieces to build around Jokic, who obviously is not the greatest defender. But I think ultimately they still have the chances to be a contender this season if they get that offensive rating back up. So I'll put them at 50-50 this season. The next team is the Portland Trailblazers, and they have looked pretty good this season. They are ninth in the Western Conference, 23-26, not amazing, but they have Denny Avdia, who is making a breakout season, looking like an all-star this year. Donovan Clingan has looked great at their center position, and overall, their young core has looked really good with Tamani Kamara, Shaedon Sharpe, even Caleb Love has looked good in his games. So overall, I don't know if they make a move. I think the move would have to be revolved around Drew Holiday. They ended up just trading away Duop Reith for, I think, Vit Krejci. So if they made another move, it would be Drew Holiday and something Bucks related. They have the Bucks picks, but I don't know what they could get back in return for how valuable those picks are. But a Drew Holiday trade could be possible. Like facilitating a Giannis trade could be possible. I don't think Giannis is coming to Portland. So overall, I think their chances are about 25% just in case they want to entertain Drew Holiday offers. Next is the Detroit Pistons, and I have said before they would need to address shooting. Right now they are 35 and 12, still first in the Eastern Conference. They are looking amazing this season. But going into the postseason, I think they will have to get a better offense around Cade Cunningham. Right now they are 12th in offensive rating, second in defensive rating, thanks to the anchors of Jalen Duren, of Isaiah Stewart. But their shooting struggles will hurt them in the playoffs. Right now, in frequency, they are 27th, and in accuracy, they are 23rd. And bringing in a guy like Duncan Robinson has been good for them. He's still a 39 point per game, 39% 3-point percentage shooter on 7.5 attempts a game. So he has started to fill that hole. But still, like I said, they are 27th in frequency. So they don't get too many threes up. So you would want to go get a Michael Porter Jr. who still has that defensive infrastructure while being a great three-point shooter. So ultimately, I put the Detroit Pistons at probably 75% because if they want to be contenders this season in an open East, they would have to go make a move to address their offensive struggles. Next is the New Orleans Pelicans, and they are a team who I want to make a move so bad. Right now, they are 13 and 38, 14th in the Western Conference. They don't own their pick this year. It goes to Atlanta. It's the number 2 pick right now. And I want Trey Murphy off this roster. I want Herb Jones off this roster. Jordan Poole can come off this roster. Zion Williamson should be off this roster. But ultimately, there's been a report that Joe Dumars does not want to sell high on those guys. I'm not sure why, but they are horrible this season. 25th in net rating. So I'm not sure if they don't move off of those guys with high value, I don't see them making a trade. But ultimately, I think they will have to do something this season with how bad they've been, and they have a lot of talent on this roster. Next is the Memphis Grizzlies, and there's been a lot of rumors surrounding this Grizzlies team. They are not good right now, 12th in the West, 18 and 29. And the rumors have been around Ja Morant, who at the beginning of the season was unhappy with his coaching staff and wanted out. Then whenever trade season started, rumors ramped back up because he is a good point guard on the market. He is obviously not his 2022 self. He's still shooting 23% from 3 and has not looked amazing this season. They have Cedric Howard, who is looking like one of the best rookies in the class. They have Jaren Jackson Jr., who's also in trade talks this season to be moved. I think if Ja Morant gets moved, Jaren Jackson Jr. would have to be next to go. But ultimately, I don't know if they end up making a move. Ja Morant has said that he's happy in Memphis now, so we'll see about that. But we have about 4 days left. So I think ultimately they're about 50-50. I almost want to move them down to 25%, but I think there is a chance that they will make a move by the deadline. Next is the Toronto Raptors, and they have looked good this season. Right now, they're 4th in the Eastern Conference, 29 and 21. And Scotty Barnes is looking like an all-star, possible All-NBA, possible DPOY. He's looked amazing this season. But ultimately, their center room has been their downfall. With Sandro Mamakashvili, who's really a backup center. Jakob Poeltl has not been able to stay healthy this season. Colin Murray-Boyles have been thrown into some small ball lineups as a rookie, and he's looked great holding his own and then being a great defender. But ultimately, I think they will have to make a center move by the deadline. If it's Zubac, if it's Sabonis, if it's Anthony Davis, if it's Daniel Gafford. I've heard them being in Giannis sweepstakes, which every single team is. But I think ultimately, moving off of Jakob Poeltl, they have a lot of big contracts on this roster. Emmanuel Quickley has a big contract. Jakob Poeltl has a big contract. RJ Barrett and Scotty Barnes both have big contracts. Brandon Ingram has big contracts, but those are a little bit more justified. So ultimately, I think they do try to get a center by the playoffs, by the deadline, so they're ready for the playoffs. So I would put them at 75%. Next is the Utah Jazz, and they have been pretty okay this season for their standards. They're 15 and 34. There's been a couple games where Keyshawn George has looked amazing. He is really having a breakout season, being a now 24 point per game scorer, 4 rebounds, 6 assists. But ultimately, they are still trying to tank to keep this pick top 8 protected so it doesn't go to OKC. So I think they will be bad. I don't know if there's moves to make. If you want to move off of Lauri Markkanen, if you want to move off of Jusuf Nurkic, who is another center in that center pool, which a lot of the teams are looking for. Ace Bailey has looked better. Bryce Sensabaugh is on the roster. Cody Williams has looked better, not being a complete bust. Anyways, I think they might explore options for Lauri Markkanen or for Jusuf Nurkic. So I do want to put them in 25% just off that Jusuf Nurkic center pool and Lauri Markkanen, who's making a lot of money. But ultimately, if he can be moved, he will be moved by them. And I think I'm really just banking on Jusuf Nurkic getting moved. Next is the Milwaukee Bucks, and this is the team that everyone has been looking at. I would put them in 100% if this was a video stretching to the offseason. But ultimately, just for this season, I do not think Giannis will be moved by the deadline. There's too many moving parts with this big of a trade that only a guy like Nico Harrison would trade Luka Doncic for that little value. So I think moving it to the offseason, you will get more value out of teams. You will get more picks, more promising young players after people can reassess their roster after the season. So, and the rumors of the Bucks possibly going to get a move for a Zach LaVine to try to keep Giannis in Milwaukee have kind of been dead, or them going to get a Drew Holiday to pair them back up. So as much as I want to put it in 100%, I think the Bucks do wait this Giannis Antetokounmpo move until the offseason, and outside of that, they don't have valuable assets. I don't think they're buying. I think they're just waiting to sell off on Giannis for them to get the right package. So I will put them in probably 75% just in case the Giannis thing does happen this season, but ultimately I do not think it will. The next team is Charlotte, and they have looked pretty good in the last few weeks. They went 10-6 in the month of January. Right now, they just won a game against San Antonio. They've won. They have so many blowouts. They've won against OKC, beating them by 20, almost 30 points. They won against Utah, against the Lakers, against Denver. So this team has looked great in the last few weeks. The craziest stat is that in the last 2 weeks, this Charlotte Hornets team is first in offense and second in defense, which is just insane stats for the Hornets. But ultimately, I think there's a chance that they are buyers at the deadline, and it's to upgrade that center position, which a lot of the teams are doing. And Moussa Diabate has looked great for them this season, not just for his standards. He's not an amazing basketball player, 100% from three. Y'all watch out. But ultimately, I think they do upgrade this center position. Moussa Diabate has looked good. Ryan Kalkbrenner has looked good in his spurts as a rookie. LaMelo Ball is looking great. Con Knipple is looking great. Sion James looking great. Miles Bridges is looking good. Brandon Miller's looking great. So I think they want to be buyers at the deadline and really build around this start that they've had. So I think it's 100%. I think they are going to look at an Anthony Davis, a Yusuf Nurkic, Daniel Gafford to upgrade that center position going into the postseason, because right now they are the 11th seed, and I think they could catch the 10th seed, which I think is right now the Bulls. Yeah, it's Atlanta. So I think they could catch and fall into this play-in range and maybe even get a postseason series. I don't know about that. I think they are just a play-in team this season, and then we'll reassess them in the offseason. The last team is the Houston Rockets, and they have had a pretty unfortunate season this year. They still are fourth in the Western Conference, 30-17, and I've said they still will be a good regular season team, but come postseason, I don't know if they're looked at as contenders anymore. They had Fred VanVleet, who went out with his ACL injury. I'm pretty sure it's some season-ending injury before the season started, and then a few days ago they lose Steven Adams to a surgery that will keep him out throughout the whole season. So that just really hurts their really contention status that they want to reach. They add in Kevin Durant. Amen Thompson is looking amazing. So I don't know if it's depending on what Raphael Stone wants if they do make a move. If they want to still be competitive and try to compete for a championship this year, then you would have to move possibly a Reed Shepherd, possibly a Josh Okogie, Jabari Smith Jr. to try to get a point guard and try to rebuild this roster in the loss of Fred VanVleet and Steven Adams. But ultimately, there's a chance that Raphael Stone is like, okay, this season is a dud. We're flaming off in the playoffs, flaming off in the second round, and then next season, whenever Fred VanVleet does come back, whenever Steven Adams does come back, you still have Kevin Durant, who is about 37, but he's still playing at an All-Star level, at an All-NBA level this season. So he still has a lot more in the tank. And next season, it's not like Kevin Durant will fall off the cliff, and you still will be in contention with a healthy roster. So I think the Rockets might have to be put at 50%, and that will be it for my predictions of the 2026 NBA trade deadline. Make sure if y'all like this video, y'all like, comment, and subscribe.